Here it is Aussie week, and we're doing Tim Tszyu, Virgil Ortiz fight breakdown. Let's go. I'm going to start this thing off with resume. It was the better resume between Tim Tszyu and Virgil Ortiz. Now, Virgil Ortiz, his resume doesn't compare to Tim Tszyu's. I'm sorry. Tim Tszyu has Brian Mendoza. He has Carlos Ocampo. He has Tony Harrison. The only person that I'm really giving Virgil Ortiz, and I know a lot of people are going to try to check me on this, but bring it, I'm ready for that, is Maurice Hooker. That's really the only one. I mean, that I'm really like, wow, that was a name. Maurice Hooker, there was a point in time where he was hot in the game. He's definitely fallen from grace, but there was a point in time when Maurice Hooker was the guy, and he was a dangerous guy on the come up. And you know, shout out to Virgil Ortiz for doing what he did. He dispatched of him. But when it comes to resume, I got to give it to Tim Tszyu, hands down. Power. Who's got more power? Okay. Now, Virgil Ortiz does have a ton of knockouts. He has a perfect record as is. He has 21 fights, 21 knockouts. While you look at Tim Tszyu, he has 24 fights, 17 knockouts. However, when we're looking at the caliber of opponents, things change. Yeah, if you're beating number 10, if you're beating number 7, then sure, okay, then you should be able to knock that guy out. I'm not expecting anything less of you, to be quite honest, you know. But when you're fighting guys in the top 10, the top 5, then things change. There's a difference. The way Tim Tszyu handled Mendoza, the way he handled Ocampo, the way he handled Tony Harrison, he's beating Fundora, and he can't see. And in my personal opinion, he's throwing more impactful punches. He can't see. Then he wipes the blood off his face, and he didn't have a scratch on him. Listen, his ability to see clearly lost him the fight. It wasn't his ability to fight back. It wasn't his ability to box. It wasn't his opponent's ability to dominate him. It was his lack of visibility during the fight. That's all. Flat out said after the fight, I can't see anything. So when I look at power, yeah, Virgil Ortiz has a perfect record, but again, it's all about who you're fighting. I'm sorry. When you're fighting guys whose when you're fighting number 11, you better knock number 11 out. I don't expect or I'm not trying to hear anything less than you knocking out number 11. So guess what? When it comes to power, I'm going with the tie. And I know a lot of people are going to say, hey, that's not fair. He's got a perfect record. Yeah, but again, look at the resumes and then let's have our conversation. So do your homework because I know you will. So do your homework first. Speed. Virgil Ortiz, he's faster. But he's faster than Tim Tszyu. I got to give it to him. He's definitely faster than Tim Tszyu. And, you know, he's short and compact. You know, everything is speed and he's in here and it's just popping. And if you ask me, that's how you get real power. When you're just loose and letting things go and you're not cocking it back, just let it go. Just let it go. 1, you're going to get your mojo. 2, you're going to get your timing. And then 3, it's always the one that you don't see coming. And so, in terms of the one throwing the punch as well. Deontay Wilder flat out said, when I go to knock someone out, it doesn't happen. But when I'm just reacting or just throwing a regular punch, it happens. So same thing with Virgil Ortiz. Let's see. Mental toughness. Okay. Tim Tszyu. Why? He couldn't see, and he was still very competitive in the fight with Fundora. He literally could not see. The man couldn't see. And you look at Fundora after the fight, and then you look at Tim Tszyu once he wiped his face of the blood. He didn't have a scratch. His scratch was the gash. He didn't have a scratch. If you want to talk about perseverance and, just treading through and not being, down that you can't see, that now you have a handicap. Because he had a handicap during that fight. He had a real handicap. And he still soldiered through. That's mental toughness. That's mental toughness. He was 100% competitive. From the moment that gash happened to the moment they rang the final bell, Tim Tszyu was 100% checked into the fight and 100% going for a win in the fight. Mental toughness, Tim Tszyu. Boxing IQ. You know what? Looking at Tim Tszyu's recent fights and looking at how he's managed to overcome certain obstacles, you know, you get a guy like Brian Mendoza, who was on a, you know, he was steamrolling. He was hot for the moment, you know, for what he did to Sebastian Fundora. And, you know, if you look, he can crack as well. He can punch. And he's fully conditioned. You know, he came in shape for that fight. And you're thinking you're going to see one thing, and nope, he got dominated. Tony Harrison, a very slick guy. All right? Jermell Charlo, the undisputed champ at a time, had trouble with him the first fight, lost the first fight, comes back, beats him in the second fight. But that just shows how slippery, how smart, how cunning Tony Harrison was at that point. And when he got in there with Tim Tszyu, you couldn't tell Tony Harrison, this is a novice, I'm a pro. There's a difference between the two of us. And then they get in there, and Tim Tszyu shows Tony Harrison, you're right, you are a novice, I'm a pro. And then completely obliterates him. Again, when I look at Virgil Ortiz, I'm sorry, this is going to be a common theme of this. I'm just letting you know. You're not beating anybody. Who are these guys? These are guys you should be beating up. So, sure, you know what I'm saying? But no, absolutely not. I'm going with Tim Tszyu. He's faced more guys with more styles. I'm going with Tim Tszyu. Let's see. Versatility. Well, I think they're both kind of even on this one, and I'll say why. Because I think they're both boxer brawlers. You know, I think Virgil Ortiz, he's a good boxer. But if you want to just bang it out, he's willing to just fight. And I think, I know the same thing with Tim Tszyu. And when it comes to versatility, it's just, where do you want to take this thing? They're kind of limited in the sense that neither one of them really have like great legs or anything like that in terms of mobility. But versatility, they both know how to cut off a ring. They both know how to track a guy down. They both know how to seek the target. And that's why I think in this fight, I think this fight is going to be Godzilla versus King Kong. Like, it's just going to be war, okay? This is what happens when you get two titans because, yeah, I just mentioned that Virgil Ortiz doesn't have the creme de la creme on his resume. However, he is somebody who can crack. He is definitely somebody who can punch hard. He is definitely somebody who poses a threat to anybody. So, yeah, and I think anybody 154 to 160, he poses a threat. Possibly even 168. You know, he can get pretty big, but 160 realistically. But he poses a threat. So, yeah, it's going to be... I'm going to have to give versatility a tie because I think they both do the same thing. They're both pressure guys. They're both guys who don't want to go backwards, which is going to be very, very, very interesting in this fight to see who's going to take the step backwards. Very interesting. Defense. I'm going to give that to Virgil Ortiz. I think, well, you know what? Should I give it to Virgil Ortiz? Well, he has a very tight guard. You know, so there's not a whole lot that can penetrate that guard. Like I said, he's not loose. He's not wild. Virgil Ortiz is a very controlled individual. Contrary to what people would say about Tim Tszyu, especially about a year or two ago, Tim Tszyu is a very controlled individual. He's not wild at all. Neither one of they really do mimic each other in a sense because they're both stalkers. They're both super aggressive. They're both very calculated. And they neither one of them try to give you anything, but they're willing to take everything from you, like at a moment's notice, you know, like, so if there's any type of opening, they're on it and they're going to jump on it. So, but when it comes to defense, I think Tim Tszyu is really great at picking shots. Neither one of them, I think, have great head movement. Neither one of them do I think have great foot movement. But because of who they are, they're power punchers and they're stalkers. They don't necessarily rely on their footwork in the same way, because that would suggest that they're trying to get out of the way. And both of these guys are trying to get in the way. They're trying to cut off. So when it comes to defense, you know what? I think I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to go with a tie on that as well. Cardio, I'm going to give it to Tim Tszyu. The way he fights, like nothing that he does requires a ton of energy. In which case, what I'm saying is what he does, he can do for 12 rounds, no problem. And he never looks sloppy because he's not exerting a ton of energy. So it's really easy to just for Tim to keep doing Tim from round 1 to 12. While you look at Virgil Ortiz, he can get a little sloppy. He can get a little wild, especially if you get him into a barn burner. He'll definitely get wild and he'll get real loose. I'll say it like that. He can get wild and he can be drawn into something where he won't use his best judgment. But he's a very sharp fighter as long as he stays boxing. When he fights, it's a different story. Let's see. I pretty much mentioned footwork. I'm definitely going to just give footwork a tie. Like I said, neither one of them do anything special. Both of them are aggressive, come forward guys, and they want to cut off the ring. Who has a better jab? Virgil Ortiz. That Mexican style is made for pressure. That Mexican style is made for consistent flowing of punches, particularly the jab. And what it's made to do a lot of things, mainly just push you back, or it could just flat out bust you up. And he's always pumping his jab. And Tim Tszyu has a nice jab, but he's not as consistent with it. If there's one thing that I've said several times about Tim Tszyu is that if you have a good weapon, you should use it more. In which case, you look at Virgil Ortiz, he uses it. He pumps that jab out. You'll know he has it because he's going to bust your face up with it. Creativity. Who's more creative? Tim Tszyu. Tim Tszyu. He's not the type of guy you can read. Other than the fact that you know he's coming forward, he's not the type of guy you can read. He's not the type of guy who's uniform. He's not the type of guy he's not a 9-to-5er. You know what he's doing. He's not that type of guy. He'll lead with a shovel hook. He'll lead with things that you don't lead with, that you end a sequence of punches with. And that makes him unpredictable. And that's what's worrisome. But that also gives him a level of creativity where if you don't know what I'm going to do, you might just react. He's great at feinting as well, and his hands are always out. And because his hands are out, he has heavy hands, you're just naturally kind of, you don't really know. However, you're going to have Virgil Ortiz like this. So he's just going to go side to side to side to side. But like I said, one of the great weapons that Tim Tszyu has is that shovel hook and his uppercuts. And Virgil Ortiz is like this all day, which is prime for what? The shovel hook and the uppercut. There you go. Let's see. Punch output. Virgil Ortiz. Tim Tszyu is, like I said, he's not going to throw a ton of punches. But what makes him dangerous is he's very accurate. He's very sharp. Virgil Ortiz is also a very accurate, very sharp guy, particularly in the beginning of the fight. Like I said, though, what's worrisome for Virgil Ortiz is that he can be drawn into something else. Tim Tszyu is going to be Tim Tszyu regardless, because an angry Tim Tszyu is technically the same guy as a happy Tim Tszyu. He's the same guy. An angry Virgil Ortiz is not the same guy as a happy Virgil Ortiz. He's not. An angry Virgil Ortiz is not throwing that jab out the same way a happy Virgil Ortiz is throwing it. Don't believe me? Check the tape. Let's see. Body work. Who's a better body puncher? That Mexican style is all about some body punching, and Virgil Ortiz is sick with it when he throws some body punches. He's dropped a lot of guys with that, and they did not get back up. But then, you know what? Also, to his credit, Tim Tszyu's done the same thing. So when it comes to body work, we're going to have to go with a tie. Both guys are equally vicious when it comes to the body. Both guys. Durability. Who's more durable? It's hard to go against a Mexican when you talk about who's more durable. You got to be honest. And I've never really seen... that Maurice Hooker fight was kind of tough for Virgil Ortiz. But honestly, I just don't feel like he's been in there with somebody like Tim Tszyu. And Tim Tszyu is a pretty thick guy. He's not a super big guy, but he's perfect for 154. It's going to be interesting. I'll tell you that much. But Tim Tszyu is a pretty durable guy. I mean, Tony Harrison can punch. Brian Mendoza can punch. Sebastian Fedora can punch. You know, these guys can punch. Carlos Ocampo can thump. So he took their best punches, and he's still here. And he walked through them like they were wet paper. So when it comes to durability, I'm going to be safe. There's a part of me that feels very strongly it should be Tim Tszyu. But it's you can't go against a Mexican when it comes to being, durable. They're well known for being super tough. And Virgil Ortiz is the creme de la creme right now. He's a real bitch. He's a tough dude. I'm just going to go with a tie just to be safe. Danger. Who's more dangerous? Okay, now we have Virgil Ortiz, and he has 21 fights. He has 21 KOs. Okay, we have Tim Tszyu. We have 24 fights. We have 17 KOs. Who's more dangerous of the two? Well, on paper, obviously, we're going to go with Virgil Ortiz. However, it's the caliber of fighters they've faced. I'm going to go with Tim Tszyu. These are the last few guys that he's faced were like killers, and he manhandled them. Tony Harrison, he manhandled him. Carlos Ocampo, he manhandled him. Brian Mendoza, he manhandled him. He more than held his own with Sebastian Fedora. I can't stress this enough how important this is to show how tough he is, to show his boxing IQ, to show his resilience, to show his mental toughness, his fortitude. The guy could not see, and he was still 100% competitive in the fight. When you look at Sebastian Fedora after the fight, he was busted up. So much busted up that he can't even fight until he gets another MRI or he gets checked out. They put him on ice for a few months. Tim Tszyu's back in the gym. All he needed was some stitches because he had nothing on his face. So who's more dangerous? I'm going to go with Tim Tszyu. I think that's a safe bet when I talk about who's more dangerous. That's not to say that Virgil Ortiz is not dangerous, but it is to say that Tim Tszyu is more dangerous. And looking at my tally, I think I have a winner. I think I have Tim Tszyu. It's a landslide. Not a landslide. He's sliding in just safely. That's what I mean. But I have Tim Tszyu. I think Tim Tszyu is going to beat Virgil Ortiz. Not only that, why? Because he's mad about the Sebastian Fedora fight. And whoever gets in there with Tim Tszyu next is going to get it.